Motion to approve.
Motion. Second.
Second by Beth. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the minutes from the July 23rd meeting. I think Carla sent them all out to you. There's several copies on the table also. Any suggested corrections, additions, or deletions?
On page 2, electronic media, letter A, it says in there, and adding a submit event link to visitstjohn.com. There already is one. It was just adding a more prevalent submit event link.
Okay.
One that would be easier to be seen. But there is already the link there to go to the, I think, right?
No.
Not on the homepage.
Oh, not on the
No,
homepage.
I think you have to go to the media page to find
never
it.
mind.
Any other changes or corrections?
Oh, it's just against calendar links, right?
It's the-
Yeah.
Okay.
Entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the July 23rd meeting. Stephanie,
I'll do that.
second.
Second.
Dina, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Are there any citizens to be heard? We'll count you as an honorary citizen. So, there's no citizens to be heard. Stephanie, would you like to give your report then, please?
On my report, see on the basic spreadsheet that I handed out, looks like this. This is our visitor count. These are individual visitors to the website, to the Welcome Center. In July, we had a huge drop in visitors to the website. This is pretty consistent across all tourism committees. It's just the heat being the hottest July on record. It just wasn't a good travel time. Same with June. June was very warm as well. But we're now at least even to where we were the same time last year, so we haven't gone negative. So hopefully with the break in the weather, which we have seen an increased amount of activity with people in town both during weekday and weekends, we're hoping that we'll be able to at least maintain our current status, if not maybe grow a little bit more. Hard to say, school's getting started, so that may affect. Now, we had 0 group visitors that were sent through the Welcome Center, where they called the Welcome Center to set up their group. However, we did have several groups in town that came on their own throughout the month of July.
Were there some, can you give us some examples of who might have come in?
We had an RV group come through. We had a senior living company go through. We didn't know till the day of, and they happened to stop by the Welcome Center just to use the restrooms. And there were a few others, but the details I can't recall off the top of my head. Our July 2011 expenditures, July 12, we have down at the bottom of the list. We do have more advertising that was spent, but we are getting to that first quarter of fiscal year 13 with the state has begun. And so we had several advertising drop that we had to pay for in fiscal year 12. And that's the largest part of that increase. Also, the tax commission reestablishing, or not reestablishing, but redoing the contract that I had set up with St. Louis Post-Dispatch gave us an opportunity to get on that website on a more consistent basis, which was helpful as far as increased traffic.
I have a question, Stephanie. Down here it says, all funds for 2012 marketing expenses have been allocated.
Yes.
Does that mean they've been paid for up till the end of the year for all the advertising?
At this point, we are.
You're paid for everything in 2012?
Correct. But it was also all contracted by March
Okay.
of 2012.
That's what, yeah, contracted is probably, but you allocated at the beginning of the year, and you actually contracted by March? Is that,
Most of it was contracted immediately, but I can change that to contracting if it's less
yeah, I
confusing.
think that would make it easier for us to look at, wouldn't it?
Okay. The, going to the web report.
Just one question.
Wait a second, let me back up. Go ahead.
The revenue that comes back from the state, I think this year it's supposed to be the 18,000. Do you expect all of that to come back in this fiscal year, or is some of it going to come back in the next fiscal year?
We have 6,700 that's going to come back in this fiscal year yet, and that's for the fourth quarter. The first quarter isn't going to be realized till probably the end of August, early September. No, wait, we're in August. Probably will not be realized till
Late October.
late October, early November. Thank you. Also with the budget, I pulled from the state website, taxes. All of these numbers come directly from the state. Sue Slice had sent out an email with all of the numbers, and I went ahead and I put it into forms that would make it easy to see trends. One is by the quarter for fiscal year 7 through 12, and the other one is looking at the annual. On this one, it's by quarter. Set this one up because we've only received information on tax revenue for the first and second quarter of fiscal year 12. The third quarter probably is not going to be available until late September, early October. So that shows that we have growth. There was a drop in tourism-related expenditures. Now, tourism with the 17 SIC codes, that's a formula that has been set up by the state for tracking tourism and its increases or decreases within state, county, city. This is a formula that is used as a model for other states to use toward tracking their tourism expenses. So fiscal year 10 is when we saw the big drop. A few reasons for that. The reporting is so far back on when people pay their taxes. So though the economy went down late 2008, the effect just started to begin to be felt in 2009 and then fully hit 2010. But we can show for the city, based on this bar chart, that we have grown every quarter since then. And 2012 is looking fantastic.
Wait.
So the orange bar is 2012.
Okay, but this title says state generated general revenue
Correct. That is the information that we received from the state.
about
But-
our city.
About the city.
Okay,
Correct.
so this really.
It should say city.
This is for, oh, I see. You got it by you. Okay.
Those are the 17, and that's basically for St. Genevieve, is the lodging and the restaurants. We don't have amusement parks, we don't have professional baseball or football or hockey teams. So these are items that we don't have that still fall within. So on the second sheet, I'm showing trending and comparisons. The red line is county funds, the city is the blue line. And this is just per year. So we're pretty even, 2007, 8, 9. Slight drop in 9. Fiscal year 10 is when we felt the brunt. And then fiscal year 11, it's showing that we have increased. Now this is a similar look, if you look at the second page, this is the state number. The reason why they're on two separate graphs, city and county is counted in millions, state is counted in billions. So there was no way to work it onto one easy to read bar chart. But if you look at the pattern, it's very similar to what we experienced in the city and county. However, on the state revenue, they have professional teams, they have a lot of amusement parks, they have a lot of things that we don't have that's counted in, one including the All-Star Game that was held in St. Louis. And that gave them a good prop for tourism in those years. I believe that was 2010. Was the All-Star Game? 2010 or 2011. Because this year it's in Kansas City, so we'll see that boost for those areas. So, and then all of this information, if you want to look and verify, you can download the reports from the state's website, or you can refer back to the report that Sue Rice sent out. On the July report, we're continuing to see the trend of the sharp increase over visitors in 2011. We're also seeing an increase in the number from month to month. So we reached a new high in the month of July with visitors to the website.
Out of the website.
4,335. Three-fourths of that was unique visitors. We had good page views, over 15,000. And I will say that August is looking in the same way. Currently, we're over 4,800. So we will beat the July numbers as well. The average visit duration site has gone down a little bit. Bounce rate is going in the correct direction. It reduced. And then the new visit sites went down about 2%. At the bottom, it provides information on what territory that we receive visits from, predominantly it's the United States. Also, in addition, and this is good for marketing and trying to figure out what people are interested in, what's the best way to direct them to traffic, and that's on this flow chart. On the flow chart, you can see overwhelming that people start at our home website. And this is people actually typing it in, so it goes to the advertising we have in place, either via online where they click directly to the main site, or they actually type visitstgen.com into the web page. So this means that a few things: we have good interest, we maintain a good number of people, so they start on this first column, and then if they find more interest, they'll move on to another page. So that's the second column, and so on with the third and fourth page. The red lines that you see coming down, those are people who have left right away, or that's people who have left as they traverse the site.
So, like, these people from Canada and India and China, on that first column, they have only went directly to visitstgen.com. They didn't go to /events or /needs or /attractions.
Correct.
Okay. But from there, a lot of them might have went to different sites, but they started at the homepage.
Correct.
Okay.
Can't you change the language on the homepage?
I'm sorry?
Can you change the language on the homepage? Is
You
that correct?
can. You can. And I have been approached by, specifically, since this is a French community, a native speaker in French. And they do not like that translation. It does not translate accurately, and they have recommended removing that until we can have someone actually write a site in French or a site in German. But the translators, they don't translate well.
Like Google Translate?
Yes, I think we have that up at the top.
I think there's 8 languages or something that you can do.
Right, I think it's Spanish, French, German, a few others that I can't think of off the top of my head. But they gave me an example where they gave the translation of the French that they can get to the website, and there are certain words that are used and how they're used that talk about baby diapers. So that was a really good example of how that translator is not good. We had some discussion about that a year and a half, 2 years ago, and it was insisted that they keep that website on there. But I think it's a good opportunity for something to look at in the future when we have French students going through who are native language. We had a young lady in Overly Welcome who was working on a fellowship program. She's native French speaker. So taking advantage of those where we're getting them in houses and getting them opportunities to complete their education, but at the same time they can help us in return. We do have over 300 pages on our website, which is an outrageous number. The city of St. Louis doesn't even have 200 pages on their website. So our website is extremely cumbersome, along with a few other things that need to be kind of updated and changed and switched. Simple is better, that is the new. A lot of the websites are completely redoing their sites, from Intel, major businesses, to Cape Girardeau has changed theirs, St. Louis has changed theirs, and there are quite a few others that we would consider our competitors that have completely changed their website. Alton, Illinois is in the process of doing it. The current site they have is actually pretty nice, but they're wanting to simplify it even more. But I spoke with Wade Wilson, and he will meet with the website committee some evening and kind of go over his opinions and his thoughts. This last report with the web shows traffic. And so we have, on the major report from Google, they only provided 93 sources of traffic. Google Organic and Direct, that goes back to our advertising. stgenevieve.org is the city website, then obviously the chamber site, the STE/Genevieve, Bing, Yahoo, Google, ExperienceMississippiRiver.com has really jumped up on the referrals.
We talked about the channel 798, that tag on our link.
It's been added.
It has been? Okay, good.
Yeah, Martin checked it, said it wasn't there, so I sent it on. And after a couple emails back and forth, it was finally put on.
Good.
97's been added, but not sometimes News of the Herald yet.
The only reason why I jumped on 798 is because the Board of Aldermen wanted it on immediately, and that was as of the work session last Wednesday. On the approval, it is said that those links won't go on until the website committee approves the graphics. So I'm just waiting for the graphic side to be approved so I can put those on. But with the Board of Aldermen insisting on that one particular,
I thought we approved that at the last month's meeting.
Well, we didn't have the
We made the
graphic
motion,
from,
okay.
we didn't have approval on the graphic from the Herald. We
Oh,
did
that's
have
what we were-
approval
yeah,
on the
so we
graphic.
were waiting for the graphics.
And I think the Herald wants to wait and see what the placement and stuff is going to look like. Like with the other ones, see where they're going to go. I mean, they're going to be, I think they're going to all be placed with media. I don't know that we're going to segregate them. That's the last thing I don't know. I'll check with them again though and see what.
They want on there or not?
Stephanie, you provided a report of the 17 SIC codes the state uses to track tourism. Can you get a report of the sales tax that excludes those 17?
It'd be a simple math, wouldn't it? It'd be
Right.
all revenue minus the 17. You could do it. But
Well, 17 are selected to show, for instance, sales tax for tourism related, but non-tourism sales tax may be fluctuating exactly the same.
Well, you can, the website, I think if you just type in Missouri tax reports, SIC codes, or by SIC codes, you can get every SIC code plus a total for the city, plus a total for the county.
Right. I
So you
can
just,
take these 17 and subtract it.
they're actually just two codes, as Stephanie said, that are related, what was that, 58 and, what's the other,
58,
71?
79, I think. It's the food and lodging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
I think we should really stay.
No.
They will.
We already have.
We'll sell the name.
We already have great sporting facilities. We should be able to use with regional sporting and amateur sporting events, but that'll take money to advertise, to bring in those groups. Another quick thing, and this is kind of a back step, on the passport sales for July, we're down significantly. This was due to Boulder House, Felix Valley House spent most of July closed. Boulder House was closed for 5 days, some of them were on the weekend, but it went back to when the temperature in those buildings gets so high, to protect their visitors and to protect their staff, they're required, it's their policy to close on those days. So any sales that we did have while they were open in the mornings, we were very sure to tell anyone who bought what the situation was and that they needed to visit sites immediately. We didn't have any issues, we didn't have any problems. And it was a system that worked out pretty well. The last question that was sent to me by Bob in regard to the visitor guides and where we're at. So currently we have, we printed 70,000. We currently have an inventory of 32,250 and anticipating being out on the current version. I'm guessing the first, or January, February, March, somewhere in that quarter, depending upon, you know, if we have to send a bunch out to the various welcome centers and tourism sites, and then when the group stuff starts coming in, trying to get that information out to the various groups. So that's January at the earliest, March at the latest.
Are you anticipating printing about the same amount next year?
I would like to. I'd actually like to go up to about 100,000.
I think Sue said that 70,000 was about $8,500 for that.
Ish, yeah,
Yeah.
somewhere in there. Any questions?
How was the Jour de Fête?
Jour de Fête was very well attended. A big blessing to the weather. I have a feeling that if it had been over 95 degrees, we would not have been quite so busy. But we had people Saturday morning at 8 o'clock before the event, and the vendors were unloaded. We had a good number of people trying to buy from those vendors as they were trying to unload their product. I had run down the opening ceremony, did not have many people. So I gotten out and I ran around town. They were all shopping. They were down in North Main. They were down in Moses Austin Park. They were everywhere. So absolutely fantastic. We had several vendors that ran out of their product on Saturday. A few of them called family members and they brought more product in for them Sunday morning. Some of them said, we just are simply out of product. We have no more. So we went ahead and released them to go home. I know the Lions did very well. I haven't heard their final numbers yet. But the Felix Valley State Historic Site track, they had over 2,700 people through their houses. And the Golden Cows, I believe she said over 900 both days. And that's impressive. So it went really well. I was walking around all day, talking to vendors, talking to store owners, trying to get a feel of how everybody did. And the overwhelming majority, I was hearing, this is the best day I've ever had. This is turning out to be the best year I've ever had. Some have said it was like within their top 3 best ever. And the vendors were very happy. We had a lot of people show up to re-sign for next year. So it was a very good event.
Visitors were happy too.
Yes.
And everybody that walked in our place had bags of stuff that they had.
Yes. That was the other thing I was watching as I walked around. Not only did we have a lot of people, we had a lot of people buying. I mean, I was seeing that. Now Sunday changed a little bit. Noon, it kind of was a different crowd. It wasn't as, I don't know, sophisticated is the right word, but it was a little bit of a rougher crowd that came in Saturday afternoon. And that, some were buying, some weren't. I think a lot were enjoying partying in the Lions Park, which was good for them. But overall, it was a fantastic weekend. Everybody was happy.
Yeah, the weather is always a key component to
Absolutely.
that event, and we haven't had that good of weather for.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, we've had it 2 years in a row, so it's, hopefully it's a new climate change for us in August. It's
We
very
can
good.
wish.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. Steph, I noticed on the website this morning, I was on there, and we have the QR code.
That would Chuck did that.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's actually, it's helpful, but I wonder, my question was if we were gonna use it anywhere else.
In time, my goal is to have part of the walking guide, just to have that.
Okay.
QR codes, in looking at industry and the reaction to those, QR codes are wanted by consumers more for discounts. So, say for Show Me Shop, if you set up a QR code and they click that and they can get a coupon for 5% off purchases over $25. That's more what they look for as opposed to looking for information. Forbes did a study on that, Marketer did a study on that, and there was one other study who, I think it was Harvard Business Law, And they were all saying the same thing, is that generally those are used strictly for, or they've had the best benefit when it's been a discount being provided by the business. I would like to incorporate it into that walking tour guide, so that way they can get a little bit more information as they walk around.
Because I just read an article about the QR codes now are using, they're being helpful in the GPS, and when they code it, then they can automatically pull up directions and things like that too, so, I mean, it would be nice.
Yeah, that would be helpful too. I don't know what that QR code
It
does.
takes you directly
It takes you to the
homepage.
It just takes you to
website.
the website?
Yeah. I mean, and he put on here just a bookmark, and if you're already on the mobile site, or the website, you can scan it, and then you can just bookmark it to your phone, because that's what I did, and to see how it navigated, and it navigates wonderfully, so.
I think
it
that,
could
that
be
we
a
talked
helpful-
about a couple of meetings ago, someone like Herman's that in their print ads
Mhm.
include a QR code that takes them to their website. It's just, if
The
people,
difficult thing with our
Pretty much
web.
everybody does that.
you know,
well, not in the print ads, you don't
Oh,
always
that's
see.
where they're
Oh,
most
yeah.
helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean,
That's
not,
what I
not
s-
everybody's doing it yet.
Right, and for us, it's very difficult because we had such a restricted, our resources are so short. In fiscal year 13, we've been cut way back down as well. When you have a 1/16 or a 1/12 ad, you're sucking up an entire section of that small ad, just putting a QR code.
But
You
it
know, if
doesn't
we
have
were
to be
ever
very
get-
big, I mean, as long as they can. you
Right,
know.
but when that's like a third of the size of the ad, you know, there's all that space that.
I mean,
we're
I've
missing
seen
on.
them smaller than this, that I've been able to scan though, as well, you know,
Okay.
I have seen some, not that, it might take me a little bit more to scan it, but it is scannable, you know, a little bit smaller than that.
Okay, we would not be able to use those on the co-op ads, which hands down, that's going to be our advertising this year.
And then the other thing I noticed this morning, only because I had a phone call about it, was the Highway 61 yard sale that's coming up Labor Day weekend. They asked me about the website, and I didn't know the website off the top of my head, but I knew it was on our page. And so I gave them that link or whatever, but I guess my question is, do you think that the way we put it on here will detour traffic from 61? I mean, keep people from traveling 61 because we have a traffic alert, a traffic congestion sign on the
Locally,
website?
no, but for people who are wanting to come in, that was the past 2 years,
Okay.
major complaints, people trying to come in through 61 that are wanting to come into St. Genevieve, they're not wanting to go through the yard sales. And so that is an advisory for anyone who's wishing to visit, which the majority of people that go to this website are visitors. That's just to reroute them through to 32 so they can avoid that.
Does it mention 32 on there?
No, it just.
Is there a way to make it,
It
that's,
should.
it sounds negative. Is there a way to make it positive? to-
Like, don't come here, we have too much going
Too much.
on, kind of thing, but I just thought maybe, I don't know.
I'll follow up with Chuck.
I thought maybe if we could just, if we could route them to
Yeah.
32 if they wanted to, if they're not interested in traveling
you know,
61.
come visit our
or the yards.
restaurants, our, you know,
Right.
make it see if we can make it positive.
Yeah. I just didn't want them to, if they were on 61, you know, not travel 61 to come into town because of that, and give them an alternative like 32 or something.
Can do that.
Could you walk through this for me? What does this mean /referral on this? I'm asking about this before here. See it so often.
That means that they were referred to the website by that website. So
Referred to what website?
they were referred from stgenevieve.org to the Visit St. Gen website.
Okay.
And that was by clicking on that link at the top. We have links at the top that'll link to city, county, chamber, and tourism.
Mm-hmm.
And that was through using those links up the upper right-hand corner.
Then just tell me why is this appearing? Same question.
VisitStGen.com, I'm not sure how that's going. I don't know if that's because they're on one page
Yeah.
or going back and forth. I don't know. That would be a question for Chuck.
If you're on some page on the website, I think up at the heading where it has the logo and the name of the town, if you click on that, it goes back to the home page. So that might be
That could be it too.
what that is. Because I've used that before to get back to the home page quickly.
Can you tell how many of the hits are from mobile devices?
1/3.
It's good. I mean, it's going to help us as we move down the road and
Right,
talking about our advertising.
right.
Okay.
Well, and we need to set up a mobile site. We have the funding for it, just need to get the bids out.
What does that mean?
Because
First of all,
the
where's the funding from?
CDF, community development.
And
And-
getting the bids out.
Getting the bids to people who would produce the website and having bids returned that fit within that and getting bids back. The last time we sent out for bids, we didn't have anyone respond.
So whoever we're dealing with now doesn't have that capability?
Not locally, so now I'm gonna have to branch out. We had it in the St. Genevieve Herald and we didn't get any responses.
You're
So,
doing to create a mobile website or an app?
mobile website.
Okay.
The
Just make
apps-
it mobile friendly?
Mobile friendly, ability for non-smartphones to use them as well, and
Stupid.
apps are, you cut out a good part because they're very expensive, so you have to go with a certain platform, iPhone, Android.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's that expense. Then you also have, with all of these new internet available phones, a lot of them are restricted to a certain amount of downloadable data a month. So, you know, if someone's only kept to a couple of 100 megabytes or 2 gig or 5 gig, you know, they have to, you know, there's a little bit more questions about, well, do I download this app or do I use this app that I'm going to use way more often? So
Well, if I
having
was
a mobile
interested in being a
site-
tourist to Paris, France, I wouldn't download their app. Just, you know, I think that's getting out of hand. There's an app for that. Well, there's an app for everything.
Yeah.
I should Google it.
No.
Yeah.
No, I was just curious which one, if you was kind of choosing a mobile website, I think probably be the first priority.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
But if like if you're talking about like a walking tour and some of those things, I think eventually down the road that'd be pretty cool to maybe do an app for that. But
Yeah,
just
that's
a mobile,
different.
I think mobile website would be definitely just makes sense to start there.
So, I think we better put priority.
Yeah, I just need to find the time to get out. There's a couple of different businesses that I can send email and then put it back in the Herald again. And then in that same time period, I'll reach out to several businesses that I've talked to that create them and let them get into the bidding.
Are you restricted by the policy to have it be done locally?
No, the preference by the Board of Aldermen is that we do as much as we can locally. And then the other side of using the Herald is that it's far cheaper to put an ad and meet that requirement than to put that same size ad in the Post-Dispatch. That's completely beyond our means.
Oh, sure. I'm just not sure that that's the way to, that's the venue to use. I don't mean, I'm not trying to be critical, I'm just
Right.
saying there's tens of thousands of people out there doing that stuff.
Right.
They don't read the newspaper.
Right, but I mean, that's what we do in order to. I mean,
There's,
that's what
there's
we're
an,
required to
the
do
ordinance
in the
says that you
newspaper.
have to post it in the newspaper. It doesn't say you can't send it to other companies at the
That's-
same
Yeah,
time.
well, and that's what I'll do, is I'll have, there's a list of companies that I will send out to get them to bid in. But on the local level, I mean, we can post it in the newspaper and.
Oh, yeah, that's what's like legal.
Right.
I have a question for you. Did you see the advertisement in Southern Living? Is that something we did, or is that something the state did, or?
You know, I don't recall doing anything with Southern Living because they were extremely expensive. I would have to check back in, because this is a calendar.
Yeah, but there's like problems with that.
They've had a couple of things on St. Genevieve. We were like one of 17 neat little destinations that came out in Southern Living. I think there was a JDF. Is that a JDF ad?
The Journey Fete ad,
Yeah.
that came out in what publication?
Southern Living.
Yes, that would have been paid for by the Journey Fete Committee.
Because that one, and I can pass it around, it shows a wine bottle from Stonehill as our
Right.
picture. And then it says, in the wording, it says,
Well, actually,
our
it's kind of,
French settlement
We
founded
got-
in 1940.
well, and we had a travel writer come in that nobody notified me about, and her online posting is absolutely absolutely wrong. She has us being founded in 1835. She was in town for a few days and no one directed her my way. So if they don't do that, I don't have any.
So you don't know where
That
this
doesn't
came
look
from?
familiar, no,
So it could have been on a state level or something that somebody put that in there?
possibly.
So we had a travel writer in town and they didn't even visit the Welcome Center?
Nope.
Where did they stick it?
I would have to look back and see. It's in her article.
Really?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
No, why?
No.
You know,
That
speaking
was
of,
Susan Kirkpatrick, I think. There was, this showed up just in, down at the Ozark, the Lake of the Ozarks ad, I think that's.
I want to say that's where she was from, was Ozarks.
Yeah.
And that actually, if you look at that, that's Missouri. There's a Missouri section, so it talks about Washington.
Well, that's why we didn't
and
know if
St.
it was
John.
like if somebody on a state level did that, but it,
Did it, does
Yeah,
that list our
nation.
website?
When they cut,
visitstjim.com.
it says
That-
visitstjim.com.
Can you call that magazine and ask who put that ad in? Because if it's got wrong data, and it's not us putting it in, how can they use our website?
Because it's common and open for anyone to use. I would rather them use the Visit St. John website than other websites about St. John that are completely inaccurate.
But I mean, you could use that as to try to find out where this information's coming from for an ad.
I
That's
could,
not an ad, that's a
but it's not
calendar.
an ad, it's a calendar entry.
It's some intern lifting information from somewhere else, putting stuff together.
Well, and you know, I had a couple of phone calls during like the last 2 weeks about Rural Heritage Days. And somewhere out there, it's listed the first weekend in October, but I
Yes.
can't find it.
It is on the ste-genevieve.com website. They also
That's
have
a nice
autumn days.
website.
They also have autumn days listed on there. And they have a few other things listed on there for 2012 that haven't taken place for several years.
They also have the Creole House as a bed and breakfast.
And it's not.
It's my
Hasn't been for 12 years.
Yeah. And
Because I know this lady, she was so upset that they were going to come to Rural Heritage Days the 1st of October. And I'm like, well, it's not until, you know, the end of October. And
right. And we had a similar issue with the Civil War. Even though it was very well known, the Civil War event, it was pointed out to him 2 months in advance. He never changed it, and we had a lot of people in town that weekend who were extremely unhappy.
I can see
Well,
that.
just keep working on it. That's all you can do.
How many decades?
Yeah.
It's silly, I mean, there's no doubt about it, but there's nothing, you know.
It's his website. He can write whatever he wants.
I think he may be willing to do a link to the calendar or whatever.
That would be fantastic.
I mentioned it to him, and that's what he was talking about. I think you ought to talk to him again and see what he can do, because that's a problem of having multiple sites, multiple event listings that are incorrect.
Is, at the bottom of this page, it says by Chelsea Bartel and Corey Bordenaro. I assume that is for, those are the two people that put this together, is that magazines?
That would be my guess.
Well, an email to them might be a good way to just say, hey, we'd love to update your information. I got a bunch of stock photos that you could use for St. John too. If you ever need anything else, let me know. Couldn't hurt to reach out to them,
Not a problem.
correct there.
Anything else?
You want to keep that?
Just Steph on the report, or do
I
you want
have
to go in?
something else I wanted to bring up. I like looking at numbers as much as the next guy, but I'm having a little trouble absorbing all this information every month. And, especially when we get like the budget reports every month, and, I look at this Google Analytics from this month, and there's percentages and everything, but I'm wondering if we couldn't do this kind of stuff quarterly, because we spend a lot of time on it in the meetings. And with something like this, I'm having a much easier time seeing trends. And I have a tougher time seeing it on things like this and like when we get the budget report every month. And I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but I'm having a hard time understanding all of it unless I go back and study it and study it and study it, and I just don't have time for that.
Well, since you put it sort of in the form of a question, I have to say, you said, does anybody else feel that way? I have to say, I concur completely, and beyond that, I think it takes too much of Stephanie's time.
Yeah, that's another issue.
Um,
Is how much
it's-
time does it take to put all this stuff together? Could we do it quarterly
Well,
and still get the
I
same
think
information?
it gets beyond that. I think it gets to a point of you get what you measure. And if we're measuring measurements, then that's what Stephanie's going to be committed to doing, is creating measurements. I'm more concerned with foot traffic and heads and beds than I am with reports. Not to say that they're not valid, and the state's going to require it, and the state's going to admire the quality of the reporting that Stephanie's done. I'm just saying, let's back up a little bit. This may be overkill.
I think your statement that what you measure is what you get, and it's always important in any business that your measures of success are you got to have the right ones, because if you have a wrong one, that's what you're going to get.
Right.
I know the resource committee had a meeting and has some suggestions, and we'll talk about those later in the meeting, of measures of success or metrics that could be used to see if what we're doing is progressing. Now, do we need to look at those on a monthly basis? Probably not all of them. Some of them you might. Some of you may want to just look at on a quarterly basis. But you should look at trend, as you mentioned, trend data is so much easier to look at than an individual number.
Right, like this, for example, very pretty, lots of colors. Even without the colors, it would be easy to see. And this, we're looking at 5 years and every quarter for 5 years. Now, something like this, we wouldn't need to look at every single month. We could look at quarterly, right? And I don't know, I just find that a whole lot easier than, like, I understand things a lot better now from looking at these than I have in the last few months with the other information we've gotten. And I don't know, maybe I'm more of a visual person and the charts help me. And I don't know.
I agree with what you're saying. We had never, I think we finally gotten to a point now where a lot of us are starting to understand the inner workings and some of the stuff that she's been collecting and some of that data. When we were without a department head, we didn't have any of this information, so it was really hard. Andy didn't provide it when he was here, so we didn't get much information. And now Stephanie's kind of finally put together, I think, a pretty comprehensive reports, I guess, because it is more than just one report. So, in a way, we've finally gotten up to this point where we can kind of look back and we're able to start tracking some of this stuff. I know what you're saying. There is a lot of stuff to go to, and I don't want to waste her time putting together, spending 8 hours preparing all these reports for a meeting. But at the same time, I feel really good that we finally gotten to where we are so that we can start tracking some of this stuff. And I think as we fine tune it, maybe it would be something that we could do quarterly, but we never had any of this stuff 2 or 3 years ago. So we've come a long way. And
Okay,
the fact
I mean,
that we're
it's great. I'm
fine-tuning
not
it would be-
discounting anything she's doing. I'm
Yeah,
just
no, I
saying
know,
it takes
yeah.
so much time to do this and so much time in our meetings, too.
Right. Well, and on those two where I received the numbers from the state, I will not have an update to that until they post that third quarter. And that's going to be
They're
October,
about 2
November.
months late after the end of the quarter before you even see something.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy. Generally, it's more like 3.
How much time do you think you spend getting your agenda set up, putting together your report, and pulling all the web traffic and the financial data? How much time do you think you spend? 4 hours?
No, it's well over 8. It's probably about 10 to 12. And then including in the information for the fiscal year 7 to 12. That took me 3 days to do because it's such a huge amount of data and then calling it out.
But going
putting it in.
forward, on a quarterly basis, it
Going
would probably
forward,
take.
that one isn't going to take as much time.
Yeah.
Probably more around add an extra hour to get that done.
I think I don't know, offering some other services there, but I think Sue may be able to help you out, putting some of that kind of data together off of the reports that,
It'll be
She is a
interesting.
report wizard, there's no
Yeah.
doubt about it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see with their new data and how much easier that might take some time and energy off of it, but,
I just said, I think there's some resources available to you that'll make that time
Right.
a little less cumbersome.
right.
It just seems like we spend so much time going over these numbers from the past month that we could be using that time to be brainstorming over ideas to get people here.
To change them, how do you change the
Yeah,
numbers?
we need more time to focus on getting people here instead of
I think that's
discussing
one of the
past.
things that, I don't know, it would be nice if we could get some of this data before we come to the meeting. I mean, we're sitting here trying to listen and think about it at the same time, and then maybe we try if we can have a week before that we can send it out. Does everybody have Excel? Just, I mean, that's one way so we can concentrate more on, like Kelly says, the things to do. And some of this is just information to look. Are we getting better? And if not, what are we doing? Yes, Martin?
2 points. When we reorganized the Tourism Advisory Council, institutionalized it, made it part of the city code. The original emphasis was to provide policy direction, guidance, decision making, and that requires knowledge of the days. Doing that. I had originally proposed an EDP quarter. There was some folks who thought it was too early to go forward with meetings, and we needed to get started on the path that they'd drawn, and then maybe consider whether to move forward. But there was also concern for accountability. So the kind of reporting that Stephanie has been done was, or had been doing, was address that question of Tourism Advisory Council's role in legitimizing the effort by having this knowledge and having us, the staff, be accountable to the informed group. So I would support the board personally. I certainly think the level of detail is important because I think there's still a concern for accountability. That is one of the legitimate roles of Tourism Advisory Council. And the idea of getting it out for meetings. That, and if you're doing it quarterly.
That would make it much simpler. I spend so much of my day now just trying to get this information plus a separate report for.
I'd rather you
That's
spend
a
that,
judge's role.
I'd rather you spend that time networking with other tourism bureaus and editorial writers and travel writers and agents and so forth.
I think you'd rather spend your time teaching, as you said, with the policy questions.
Right.
Instead of the accountability questions.
Right.
Yeah, at this point, my workload has shifted to where I'm spending more time on this, and I can't do that. I'm very limited on being able to reach out to media sources,
Then I-
advertising sources.
Certainly
I would
endorse
I would just offer that we can provide some volunteer support to help put the charts together and that sort of stuff.
And that's great. Anyone who's willing to do it, you are more than welcome to come and help. But, and that was one of the major reasons why even our regular business is pushing up. I was really hoping to be able to get a full-time staff member to help take some of the load off my shoulders so that I can focus in on the important things, which are the budgets and the advertising. And the budget, especially with regard to the co-op. I have a final report that I've got to get together. I have a recertification process to go through. And then immediately once that's done, I have to start working on the fiscal year 14 plan. And try to get a budget request to the county in December. So, that is a huge part of my job that, there's only so many hours in the day that I can get to. And doing all of this on a monthly basis is definitely affecting my ability to do the more important part of our job, and that is implementing advertising, having relationships with the media, working with the state, and looking at the future, because what we choose to do today is what's going to affect us 2 to 3 years down the road. So as far as a quarterly, that would be fantastic.
I think that takes a Board of Aldermen change. I'll have to look at the ordinance that was written.
Yeah, I don't call it requiring monthly.
But Now, does that mean we're gonna have the reports quarterly, or we're only gonna meet quarterly?
No, I think that's just reporting, I think is all we're talking about.
No, I think you're talking about meeting too.
Then, otherwise.
No.
I'd suggest that for this first year, monthly at least, and that at the end of the
Yeah, I don't
year.
think the meetings are gonna change, I think you just.
No, I think the
Yeah.
meeting should still be monthly, I just think the report should.
Well, we've been here almost an hour, and we haven't talked about policy at all. Future, planning, opportunities, pessimism, optimism. Can we change the subject?
Do you have any-
Where are we on the agenda?
Well, we're gonna be moving into old business.
Just
Okay.
finished my report.
Okay.
Thank you.
So do we need, if we want to go to quarterly reporting, do we have to go through all of it?
No,
Can we make-
no.
Can't you just do it, or do we have to make a motion? Or-
I move that we go to quarterly reporting.
Second.
Discussion?
I think it'd be okay. If it doesn't work out, we can always go back.
Yeah, for not getting, if there's something that's, really stand out, like in the Google Analytics, if there's something that really pops out, just bring it to our attention or something, or take a look at something out of the ordinary, but, it's pretty much the same, monthly as far as the Google Analytics goes. Is there something really?
Okay, can we, everybody, there was a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor of going to quarterly reporting?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Old business, 2013 special events. We were talking about the flood 20-year and 75th for the Great River Road.
And we met briefly on that. Talked about some people in town that would have lots of information on both the flood and the creation of the Great River Road. Probably get with Jan and Stephanie and Bob if you're available to try to set up, I don't know if you want to call them interviews or discussions with a couple of these people to see what kind of information they have for us. Stephanie has a lot of resources with the Corps of Engineers. National Geographic magazine was here during that time, so she's going to contact someone there, and a few other magazines she wants to contact about those things. We talked about the educational part of it for the kids that would be visiting on their school field trips. Like pictures or a model of a levee, what's a sand boil, have them fill a sandbag and talk about how many sandbags were used, and just so they get an idea of the scale of what happened here. What was the book you had was kids' pictures?
I had, one of the local teachers, or regional teachers, had put together these books focusing on different things depending upon the year. And they had one that was on the flood of '93, and they were mostly sixth graders. And they they drew pictures or wrote a paragraph or a poem based on their personal experience with the flood. Somebody walked away with it. So I'm trying to locate the teacher, hoping that she's not retired, because we haven't received a book since well before I took over at the Welcome Center. It was an excellent resource, but unfortunately, someone snatched it. It was never to be seen again.
So maybe we can find some things like that, have that as part of a display. Just,
What kind of timing are you talking about for the events?
well, we were talking about it corresponding with the actual anniversary date. So I believe the crest would have been in August, and then the Great River Road we were talking about
Looks like October.
October. So some things might overlap. I don't know. The fourth and fifth grade is usually tour in the fall, right? So it'd be nice to have one of those things there, or maybe both of those things there, for the kids to see when they come through. But that's stuff we need to get together and talk about a little bit more.
Okay.
And is that at the interpretive center, have that stuff, or the welcome center? Or?
Yes, and what was the military display that was up a couple months ago? The Civil War, that was in the Welcome Center. And then the Missile Horn Gallery was used for the the Smithsonian exhibit, so we could probably do something similar to that, utilizing all the space we could.
Yeah. And then moving into, with the Great River Road, that would be a good time to incorporate transportation and how transportation has changed and can relate it to today with an extremely low river that a lot of transportation is used, to transport goods. And then see how it changes into looking at an interesting way to implement that into that, as well as, how getting that scope and just realizing how something as drastic as a drought or a flood can affect and interrupt the flow of goods and flow of service and different, transportation. I know, we haven't heard anything from Felix Valley House. I know the whole week is planning on a lot of interpretation, looking more historical, with how it relates to the voting museum properties. I think it's a great opportunity for us to kind of get that in, especially going into the fall, when we do start to receive a lot of the fourth graders, and then field trip, for instance. I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
You'll come back and tell us as you develop this program what's going to happen and when.
Yeah, send some emails, and try to set up some more meetings.
Do we have any deadlines then on any of this? Do we have any artificial ones that we need to?
I think these are self-developed
Okay.
initiatives for next year, was to kind of some anniversary events.
I would say the sooner we can at least get a rough sketch together, the better off it's going to be, and that way I can pull stories out to Preservation and National Geographic, because they work well over a year in advance.
Okay. Some other old business, scheduling of press release training, anything new on that?
November 5th, Monday, November 5th, 7 p.m. at the Khaki Room. This is a tentative date. We're still waiting to hear back from Sandra Cabot. They have a really interesting initiative at SEMO that helps just businesses
So-
and other resources that we can also incorporate into that event.
Was that the 5th or the 7th? At
Monday,
7.
At 7.
At 7.
At
Okay,
7.
good. Anything new on the electronic media conversion rate? We had talked about you going back to those vendors where we do electronic advertising and seeing if they could provide us some data, how many impressions we had and how many.
I checked all of them, and they were all kind of really, and one of them, Missouri Life specifically said, well, we really don't have the ability to do that. What we can do is set up a 1-800 number specific, so people wanted to call that, they would call directly. That would be one route to take. Some of the other advertisers do that, but they generally only do that for their high dollar spenders. And that was one of the things we would have to maintain a good contract with Missouri Life to continue on with that path. But I did not get a positive response from anyone about that.
Okay. Quick on signage update. We had a meeting with the Missouri Department of Transportation, find out that you can't really do anything without talking to the state. And we had a meeting, was that Monday, and we have to go back and do a little bit more work with them, show them where it's going to be on the right-of-way. Still.
Also found out they might have some systems.
Yeah. Okay, that was all on old business. Any other old business?
Is this old business or new business? Can we, who provided?
Which one are you talking about? Well, that's new business, that's coming up. In terms of new business, I had one B&B owner ask, Stephanie, when you do the co-op plan for the year, you put the month when the ads are going to appear. Can you do that for your other ones so that if a logic...
I sent that out yesterday, or the last meeting. I handed that out last meeting. For the advertising schedule that we have for the as well.
I guess I was looking at last year's, it didn't have the schedule for the department marketing in terms of which months are on the county when it just said 6 months or something like that. I think they were asking for, can we put, like you do on the co-op, which months that ad's supposed to go?
The co-op one that does the first 6 months.
No. Not just, it was a request that, and as we go forward, putting the plan together for the 2013, if we can identify the specific month when that ad's coming out. In terms,
That's generally though, look, that's generally something that I'm not going to look at until we get to the second 6 months. So I won't have, it's going to be, what are your magazines that you have coming up? What is going to be in there is editorial, anything related to Missouri, their most popular ad, or their most popular magazine, is generally when that is decided. What do they have coming up? Is there anything that we can relate to St. Genevieve media editorial?
I think if somehow whenever we define,
Once I have it, I can provide it.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know, it's something I will not have till we get close to that time period.
okay, the other thing was, I just happened to order one of the MissouriVisitMo.com,
Vacation planners?
yeah, their annual thing. And other than B&Bs, we're very underrepresented in people and wineries. We're very much underrepresented in that, and I'm suggesting that maybe we have a little presentation to business owners and like the museum, the golf course, whatever. It's a free listing. They put out 300,000 copies of this thing a year. And I think we're missing the advantage of getting some advertising out there that businesses could be using, and they have certain guidelines and all that. But I think if we walk through it with people, I mean, our restaurants can be listed.
For fiscal year 15, I have done that. How many people took advantage of it? There were multiple emails sent out, plenty of conversations. We cannot do that, only the businesses themselves.
I'm not expecting you to do that.
I'm explaining that to some others who may not be able to do that. But that is something that each individual business has to do.
Right, and I think if we can kind of walk them through that process, so it's not as, and I'm not even suggesting you have to do that, Stephanie, but I think we need, we have a great opportunity here for free advertising that other towns are taking advantage of and we're not.
How did you get a copy of that?
Just went online and asked for it,
What website?
visitmo.com.
We should be getting ours around, like, what, October, November?
That fiscal year 13, they're still buying advertising.
I know they come out in December.
It
You get 'em in-
usually comes out January-ish, but still it doesn't go to print.
We're not going to be able to get into 2013, that ended June 1st.
No, despite the fact that I
Yeah.
sent out multiple
Yeah.
emails, and I did visit people personally, and I have done all that work.
And
So-
visitmo.com sends tons of emails reminding people to do it.
Yeah.
And I forwarded them on, and then I did the phone calls, I did follow-up emails.
But let's try some more and see if we can get more people to do
What
it.
kind of listings do they have, Bob?
They have all kinds of, you can do restaurants, you can do lodging, the golf course, there's all kinds of golf courses listed. Ours isn't listed. We need to get them to put on there. Antique shops,
Did you say our wineries are represented?
oh, very, very well. They do it for all the regions, and
You know, we're gonna strong arm people to do it,
I think I got like 3 emails from you, I don't know what else. I mean, after that, if I don't do it, I just don't do it, right?
Stephanie,
some point
I'm not,
it's here.
this is not a blame game or anything, let's just,
I understand that. My question is, with having been very aggressive with the businesses and having that knowledge provided and they still didn't do it, that's my question then. It wasn't to be defensive. It was to show that it was treated aggressively for 2013. Because the state contacted and said, we've got all of these great
Yep.
places, why are they not doing it? I mean, but when it comes to the bottom line, you can't force anyone to sit down with a computer and fill out the information.
Well, the bottom line is you can lead a horse to water.
right.
Now, the fact of the matter is that the printed guide is only half the story, because it's also puts you on their website,
Right.
which helps your own website,
Yep.
because now you have multiple links.
They
Brings-
give you your
brings
own
you up
link.
in Google Analytics. I mean, Google search.
It's just, it's something I think we need to keep pushing our community to keep doing, or to do it more, because it's, we talk about the cost of advertising, that's free.
Well, why don't we make a note to put that on the agenda for the next public meeting?
Okay. Okay,
Well, they're all public, right?
yeah.
The next evening meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. No, anybody think that they can't come to these
Do you think it's people not wanting to take the time, or you think some of our merchants don't know how to do it or seem confused by it?
I think mostly it's people who are afraid of computers.
Mhm.
You know, the state runs seminars, I know they're up in St. Louis, I've been to them, how to get on that website, how to fill out your information. I went to one once. Maybe we could do that here at one of our quarterly
Yeah,
evening
I'm sure
meetings.
Steve Fowles would be.
And invite them in so they can, and walk people through it.
You know, it's, the way the state's set up, Steve's done a great job. It's absolutely the same as ordering a product online.
So it's very user friendly.
If you've ever bought anything online, you can do this.
There's plenty of directions, and even email that they send out multiple times gives the directions to have in your post.
But maybe you just need a little hand holding.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's what I'm.
First time, you know, first time you do
Or they
something.
want
Yeah.
someone else to do it for them, but
Well, it's, once it's in there, it stays in there until you kind of.
you have to resubmit it every year, but all your info's still there every year.
Right.
so.
Okay, just a suggestion.
Value added.
You might go online and see what you get from.
When was the deadline for this coming year?
June 1st.
June 1st?
Every year. and
June
that way-
1st. So we got 8, 9.
And they start reminding you in February.
Yeah.
And then they start slapping you upside the head in May. What's the matter with you?
Okay, anything else on new business?
On what?
Yeah, something really quick. Stephen Fowles at the state contacted me, I guess a few weeks ago. He was giving a presentation to small communities in northwest Missouri. And they are really impressed with what I have been doing and what I put together. And so they're using the St. Genevieve model to show what we've done in the community, what we've done, and how we're programming more. I felt really good to get some positive feedback, especially from the state. Just kind of added, we are doing the right thing, and we are going in the right direction.
Kudos.
Okay, anything else on new business? If not, we'll move on to committee reports. Electronic, anything?
We'd gotten a list of questions from you. We already kind of talked about the online advertising and the data from them regarding the impressions. You had also asked about the cost breakdown of what the online advertising costs. The ads are bought as a package with print and online put together, and please correct me if I say any of this wrong. It's bought as a package with print and online together, so the cost of one versus the other can't be separated. So there's no way to really break that down into what exactly was spent online and what exactly spent in print on some of those. Another thing was the subscription to the newsletter that you can get on the website. There are 79 subscribers. Constant Contact manages the subscription list, and the unsubscribe function has to be there. They manage all that. There have been no newsletters sent this year. There just hasn't been the time to create a newsletter. If there was more staff or someone who could
Do you have to have it as a
volunteer.
newsletter, or can it just be an update like you do on Facebook?
You can do anything you want
do
with it.
anything you
You
want.
can, it can be a memo, it can be a postcard, it can be
Right.
whatever template you want to make it.
Yeah, I still have no staff.
The walking tours, the map on the website was largely not correct. So I met with Stephanie on August 14th and had her email Chuck to remove that page and that link on the website. I did not feel that that was a significant change that warranted approval from the committee because it was wrong information on the website that just needed to be taken down. There is, was it Jordan Upchurch? Eagle Scout project created somewhat of a walking map that the visitors are able to get at the Welcome Center if they would like to have one when they're here. But it's not good to have wrong information on the website, so that's been removed.
I guess at the sign meeting, we were talking about a new map also. We're going to talk about it on Monday for the kiosks that are going to go up for, in the 2 kiosks, so I guess we'll be kind of coordinating that with the website people too.
Is the map in this publication? Is this still correct?
That's my
or not?
recommendation, is to stay with that map. That way we have consistency.
That makes
If
sense.
someone is looking at the map and looking at visitor guide at the same time, there are no changes. I think having too much difference between would be more confusing with the
I guess the question is, do you have some arrows that kind of point to a walking tour? I think that was the thing that's not on, I don't think that's on the visitor guide.
No, it's a walking tour.
No, that, we have Jordan Upchurch,
Oh, on the
that he has a walking tour that he has. I think if you put too much though on that map, it's going to be more confusing. I think simplicity and longevity, for the sake of longevity, it's better.
Can I make a suggestion? Can I make a suggestion about kiosks? I think if you take this map, I think Stephanie's absolutely right about the continuity issue, and I think she's also absolutely right about it getting too busy. If you put this map on the kiosks in grayscale, and then added your walking tour points in color, and every visitor has one of these with them, and then sees the kiosk, the streamlined version, then you can add the color targets to it and make that effective. But yeah, this is already pretty confusing.
Well, we weren't going to, kiosk display will be permanent, so private establishments that are subject to change in ownership and name and all of those things we weren't going to include.
Right.
The landmarks,
Sure.
city. So you'll get a lot simpler just by removing
Yeah.
those references. And whether adding back or walking through information, whether or not we just have to add one of these.
Okay, anything else? Okay, well, I passed over print media, I apologize, Jan, did you have anything?
Well, this kind of all happened kind of like the week before Jerdafet, so we haven't had a chance to get together and discuss this, but Kim sent a rough draft of possibly putting all the B&Bs and lodging on this, on the page like we have it in here. So she listed 12, we only have 11. I think we need to get with Kim, maybe all of us, to discuss this in a little more detail. Because according to her, she said they would just have enough space for their name, address, phone number, website, and no little blurb. And we kind of wanted them to have a blurb, you know, about their place. So she's got it down, but I think we need to discuss it a little more with her first.
No, Jan, you can't just have your place.
Well, it's got the
Works
wrong
for
name
me.
on
Oh,
it.
okay.
It's got the wrong name with the wrong house, so
Okay.
it's just
Any advertising is good advertising.
This place looks a little out of line.
But anyway, we're still working on it. Hopefully
Okay.
now we'll have more time with the Jerdafet behind us, so.
Okay, moving on to tourism development. One of the things that some websites require are street addresses for an event, and so we started looking at where we had all of our events at and worked with the city, and the city worked with 911. So now there's, in your package is a list of what I call venue locations that we can use, like we've never had an address for the Memorial Cemetery. And people can Google 35 North 5th Street now and find where the cemetery is. So there's a list in there. You take a look at it. There's a couple of things that we're working on, whether the city wants to assign an address where the Rotary pavilion is, or that little pergola park across from the Show Me Shop, and the ferry's not on there yet. But this can be used by organizations when they're doing their advertising. The other thing, the next thing in your package, we had talked about a handout that like the schools could use if they're having a soccer tournament or a band concert, something that they could send to the other schools that would be like, I call it a quick guide. This still needs some prettying up, but it's the front page lists our restaurants. So if somebody's coming into town and they just a quick guide, where's everything at? They could also list the various venues, like sometimes when they have the ball tournaments, you have them all the way down at the JCs, down at the Corey League, out at Yanks 1 and 2. And so it was just a thing that we could send to organizations here in town that when they're getting groups coming in, they could send it to it. We could also post a website page where people could come do that. So take a look at that and see what you think about it and provide some comments back. We were also talking about a flyer for just small groups of things that small groups, if they were coming to town, that other things we could offer them. I think we handed out that list last year. That proposal isn't done yet. I hope by the next meeting to do that. The last thing on the tourism development, I'd like to have a working session someday with the whole committee, staff, and some other people to talk about, kind of come to some consensus on what are maybe the 3 to 5 things that we should do to make us more of a destination town. And this is getting into the long-range planning. One of just to throw out a thing like the national park site. Is that something that is on our bucket list that we need to really push as a community to make it happen? What other kinds of things? But I think it's just some brainstorming kind of working session. And I just wondering, as a Friday at 10 o'clock a good time to schedule that, not at the same time as our meeting, but a working session.
Talking for everyone or that committee?
No, it's everyone. We want to get some broader consensus than just what we're talking about. You guys all have good thoughts and ideas. You need to mine those. So if it's all right with you all, I'll set up schedule a session to do that. Joe, did you want to talk about metrics or the resource committee had a meeting?
I was hoping Jack would be here because he took some notes, and I don't remember all things that we went over, Bob. Did you get?
Well, there's a hand. There's a second to last handout.
Yeah.
Lists some metrics, and Steph showed some of those. There's some things we can do. We can look at just B&Bs in town, the way the city collects the data. We talked about if you're measuring tourism, there's taking a sampling of the shops downtown or sampling of the restaurants downtown and how they are doing over time. And the city can put that data, they see the individual data, they can give us the sum of those, and we can kind of track those. One of our goals is to increase overnight stays. Most of our tourism-related people are in the B&Bs that are doing overnight stays. The Mike Hotel does a lot of business people, and the other 3 do a lot of business people. So it's not as much a good measure if you look at the total lodging as if you look at a segment of it. And we can do a sample of the 8 B&Bs, 8 restaurants downtown, 8. And Sue's been working on putting some of that data together. At the next time we look at charts, we can look at those and see how it's going. And there's some other things that down the road that other people look at in terms of their tourism programs that we should possibly consider for metrics. But these are some that, again, put them in graphical form so that they're easy to look at and analyze trends. I'm kind of with you. I like to see pictures because it's a lot more understandable than just one piece of data or a series of pieces of data. So that's kind of what they're working on. There was one other piece of information I provided it was from the Google Analytics, and it's the winery hits for August 1st of last year to about 3 days ago. And there's been, I think, about 6,000 hits on wineries out of our website. I was just wondering, Steph, when you talk to the winery people, can they put our little hot link on
I believe it is on the Richmond website, because if you look in the number of,
It's on the Region page, but it's
Not
not
on
on
the
the individual
individuals.
winery pages.
I think, this is some good data when you go to the county and ask for support for funding for next year. Also, this is,
you can ask for reciprocal links, I mean, we
Yeah.
have their links on our
Right.
website. But I know, my point was, when you look at the sources that have come to the Visit St. John, Root of It is one that provides a link.
I would just encourage you as you meet with those people to see if they'll put our button on or hot link.
I'll take it to our next CERTIV meeting, get these stats.
Okay?
Are all minus Crown, is that the only one that's not part of the Ridge event?
Crown and Wine Garden.
Oh, Wine Garden, okay.
Any other reports, new business?
Yeah, I'd like to ask if we can't put galleries on this list.
We can put picked a couple of galleries, I think. Well, no, maybe not art galleries, we didn't. We can put whatever we want on there, it's just how much data you want to collect. It's a sample's almost as good as trying to look at everything over time. Do you have some suggestions on other ones or substitutions? I'm glad to entertain that. I mean, there's some encouraging data that's coming out of that. I think if you look at the first 2 quarters of this year, the shops are up 17%. Eating and drinking establishments of those 8 are just about 1.1% up. But there are some, there's some encouraging signs there on that data. And there's some that aren't so encouraging that we've got to figure out how do we turn them and make them encouraging. Anything else?
I just have one question on what the difference between page views and unique page views is.
I have, check about the, I think it is the number of first timers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Or they only, if you go on, like I'm on visitstjohn.com a lot, but it only says I'm in a unique, I'm only counted once.
Okay.
Right.
And if you're, and the first time, and we're about 75% unique.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
Thanks.
this is our wasted time on the website. Anywhere near that 4.5 mark, mid-mark is completely unpurposed. So the amount of time people are spending on the site is fantastic. And part of that shows that they're probably looking at some of our establishments. I seem to recall someone saying in a previous meeting that all of their B&B comes over the internet. I would like to see what their sources are. And are they getting referrals from the Visit website versus B&B.com versus and using other online lodging booking sites?
Any other business?
I just, we talked a lot about reports and technical data. And Stephanie, can you just kind of give us a feel, what the next couple months, how things are looking and kind of, outlook, and as far as not so report-based, kind of get away from that, just.
I would say, well, when it comes to the next report, the tax report, I am not expecting that to be good simply because of the weather and people were not out, people were not spending, not only visitors, but even renewals. I think that was seen kind of across the board, so that's going to be an interesting hit to the third quarter. We're starting to get some group bookings, some calls about people interested in coming here. I spoke with 3 different women on last Friday
You talked about a couple of those reports that you've got to get in the grant. So anything else on your radar coming up in the near future? I don't know, projects or probably one thing I'd like you to go over.
State projects are huge, and they have to be done quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm at that point where I have to really focus on that, plus I have a few events coming up in October that I have to try to promote.
And maybe also kind of give us an update on your interpretation of how your budget meeting went with the Board of Aldermen, and anything that you would like this committee to do before the aldermen decide on their final budget for October.
You know, we were cut back.
You can say that in front of
Yeah,
the city
well,
administrator.
well, we went over-
Feel free to.
I'll say that.
I requested 75,000 for marketing, which I thought was probably where we should be. It was cut back down to 30,000. The bed and breakfast or the tax commission cut theirs to 16.5. We have no money. I mean, you cannot possibly, you know, we were able to skirt around it this year, but 2 years in a row, we're not gonna have a positive effect. I mean, you've got to increase your advertising. That money has to be there to be promoted, and we just don't have it. Secondly,
Question is, well, where does that come? Because dollars aren't going up.
right, and I mean, that's the thing, is, I mean, we have an economic downturn, so we can show that with tourism dollars, that part of the budget is going up. It's the other areas that, you know, may or may not be contributing or not contributing. So we're dealing with a very limited amount of dollars, and then, you know, I mean, so that's how much the budget for 2019.
Yeah.
So there isn't going to be much to deal with.
The reason why I asked Stephanie to bring that up is we've got the short list of about, $700,000 worth of projects and only about $200,000 left of discretionary funding, to decide. We've got the basics, we've got to do water and sewer and police and all that stuff. So some of the discretionary funding is that last, I hate to call them wish list that the department heads have brought to us, but the parks want some, the tourism wants some, the police department wants some, everybody wants, some additional items. And so I wanted Stephanie to bring that up, that her budget was not, her original proposed submitted budget was different than what got brought to our department meeting with her. So it's
As was true there.
every department, yeah, every department. So
I think this is a good topic for this.
yeah.
You understand the dynamics. It's a fixed amount of money, and if you spend more here, you spend less there.
But this is,
Question is, what level of municipal service be willing to see decreases in order to increase funding?
And that's something I want to bring up to this committee is so that we're aware of it and that we can start looking at it and start talking to the Board of Aldermen and the mayor about how you see tourism fitting into the economy and just the community of St. Genevieve, and how we want to fund it and how we want to go forward.
So the budget's not locked down yet.
No, we got till October 1st.
Yeah.
So we just had our initial department meetings. We have got a meeting tonight to go over the last few departments and then start doing some.
We're going to redone the sewer and water.
Okay.
The rates, it's going to be able to see what.
Yeah.
Sign off on what we're proposing for that. They will decide what additional steps that they want to take to finalize the budget. I suspect we'll have certainly another one, if not two, work sessions before it all.
Well, I'd like to make a comment, even though we're still quite a ways away from deadline, but I have an observation to make that most of our aldermen are not enlightened as to the benefits, the economic ROI of tourism.
Absolutely.
Unless they
this
get
is a
educated.
revenue, should be a revenue generator.
Exactly.
It is revenue.
Exactly. And I think that needs to be aggressively
It's not
demonstrated.
For
to
lack
them.
of being told, whether they
Told and
bought into
and
this
shown.
thing,
Yeah,
Told and
showing
shown are
is-
two different things.
Yes.
Told that it's a revenue generator doesn't even work for Jay Nixon, right? And he's got a staff, I mean, you know? But when you really see the dollar value, I mean, we have state dollar numbers of the ROI, and this is one of the most wonderful states in the country for tourism. And we've got a great tourism department. Let's get some support from Jeff City in terms of getting some data into the minds of the owners.
Well, a perfect example, the Channel 798 brought their board, they have the nonprofit that runs Channel 798, they brought their board in to our department meeting, and they're getting a lot of their funding pulled back. Charter is losing subscribers, their peg fees have went away, so Channel 798 is looking for basically full support from the city, whereas in the past, they've used some monies that they've received from Charter. So it's departments like that have tried to impress upon the board of aldermen that they need to fund these things because of the services. Just like what Mr. Thomas said, we have to put our best foot forward so that they see that Channel 798, as great of a service as I think it is, it's not a revenue generator for the city. Tourism department is one of the only few revenue generating departments that can be for the city. So I think it is a place where if you make an investment, you get those dollars back plus, you know.
But we disassociate that revenue from the expenses in our reporting. I mean, we never talk about revenues here. We need to sell that it is the revenue generator and how we do that. We also, the reason we ask about print media and electronic media, is that an effective, or is this individual kind of ad effective? I mean, that's the biggest expense, and you got to, when you have less money, or even you got to make decisions, and we just don't have a good way of pinning that yet, or saying that this advertising that we're doing here is worth the dollars that we're sending, the conversions per, you know, that people use. We just don't have a way to track it, and so we can't say yet this is a.
Actually, we do. We have the website, we have those numbers that I've gotten from the state, and we'll continue to pull in those tourism-related categories that show money is coming in. Those areas have grown every quarter. Third quarter for 2013 makes me a little nervous because of the weather and how that has affected us. We have the information, and in the industry, there is no way to do every single one and say this ad was effective, this was not. The industry just doesn't work that way. They don't have that. I do have set in my budget, so right now I'm sitting at $30,000. I'm doing a conversion study. So 2,500 approximately will go to a conversion study because we are risking losing the cooperative marketing grant by not having that information and then begging for it and demanding it for 10 years. We have to do it. And that is the best way to do it. But it doesn't go specific to a publication or an online website. I mean, it's never going to be that precise, ever.
There's an old expression in advertising that says, I know 80% of my marketing dollars are wasted, I just don't know which 80%.
And as resources stay constant, you got to try to make more intelligent decisions on that 80%. And we don't have ways to do that yet.
Well, I don't think you should expect that you'll ever do that, because, I mean, if you take a look at General Motors, I guess it was, it decided not to continue advertising on Facebook because it just wasn't working for them. These are some of the most professional marketing people in history, and they're shooting blanks in the dark. You know, I mean, that's just the nature of the business. You just got to be sophisticated about your best attempt.
Well, we're being used by the state Department of Tourism as an example for other small communities. I think that says a lot. And should be given notice, hey, we are in the right spot in what we're doing.
Well, I mean, they dictate to you who you can put your advertising with. And a dollar spent in an ineffective advertising,
Not necessarily.
don't they list the magazines?
Oh, no. Not at all.
I thought it was just more than 50 miles.
It hit, well, the distance, and they went out of state. But the state is not just looking at the co-op grant. They're looking at everything that we're doing, not just the grant. When they're using us as an example, it's the entire program. That is what we're doing.
I mean, we are unique in that, I mean, because you do have 3 or 4 different funding sources, you know, with the state co-op grant, the county has contributed, the city has their own budget, the bed tax, we're kind of going with the co-op, you know, with the other
No,
side.
actually, that's not anymore.
No, it's not, it's separate, but it also ties in with the co-op, I guess.
Not anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
So-
it offers to city now. City is.
Well, yes, but it's still based off of bed tax, correct?
No.
No,
Oh,
that changed this year.
okay, I didn't know that.
They
Yeah.
changed last year
Last year.
completely because the lodging establishments were unhappy that we were having to promote the county as required by the state.
Yeah.
So we moved it from in fiscal year 12, it moved from the match from the bed tax to being the match from the city.
Okay, excellent.
And then the tax commission agreed to annually decide
Yeah, I knew that.
how much to give to the city, so that their dollars are being spent as part of the overall marketing expenses going off and doing something different.
I would assume we've got to be one of the only cities or tourism departments that is set up like we are, I would think. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts.
There are a lot of moving parts. One, they have more staff.
Yeah.
Two, I mean, they're in the same boat. It's kind of, you know, we're going with this, we see we have a good return. And that's what they go with on the ones where they're a little bit question. I was just talking to Chuck Martin down at Cape. I was reached out, a gentleman with a company similar to that media, and they have this online promotion. It was pretty pricey, and I saw that Cape was involved. I followed up with Cape. And Chuck, hey, how has this worked for you? He goes, it hasn't, we're not doing it again. Fantastic. So there's a lot of that, going back and forth in these other small communities and finding out what has worked for them, what has not, and making decisions based on that.
Bob, to clarify that point you made, the state never recommends anything. Occasionally, they will turn something down.
I thought they had a list of advertising
They
magazines.
have a list of preferred, but we are not required to stay there. And they have a list of preferred cities they want us to go after, but we're not required to go. The only requirement we have is it has to be more than 50 miles out, and on the RFP, it clearly states they want out of town, out of state.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
What is people around the inside of Missouri?
exactly. You're gonna see that revenue anyway, it's just folks that come out of state that incremental revenue.
Anything else?
That's
Yeah, I'd
what-
like to make one quick comment. Sorry if I've made too many already. I'd just like to commend the city, Martin, Dave Pinkley, not just for preparing for Jour de Fête, but for beautifying the historic district for the whole year. I think it's been a really quality job. Looks great.
You don't want to go back to the old car wash down there?
The Mountain Dew car wash.
Yeah, those look very nice.
Okay, any entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Joe? Second. Second, Jan. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Thank you all for coming. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the weather.
Supposed to be 97 today. It's a little warm.
I think we need to stop.